begged. I can't do anything better than about 60 days. So that would get us into September if we get it filed quickly, and it will involve support letters from the various parties, including this board if we could get one from you, about the space, about the support, continuing support for the program, and about your, if you're so inclined to do the rental as well, we can talk about that in more detail. We're going to have to create a memorandum of understanding anyway. But the long and short of it is this process will take a little while. I can't make any guarantees except to tell you that my project officer at HRSA has already said, because of all the pieces that you have in place already that want to stay in place, it's very doable. That's her exact quote. So as far as I'm concerned, this is going to happen. I never make an absolute promise, but I'm telling you that this is a very doable project as well. So I think we can make it happen. Getting there is a little bit of a problem, as we have recognized, and we'd like to hear it continued, if possible, to that September 30th. We may be able to take it over very shortly after school starts on the day after Labor Day, but not that week for sure, because we're already in, I mean, it's whatever today is, it's the 7th or the 8th or something. We're about ready to go into the 8th of September now, if we filed it today. And we're not ready to file it today. We need all the support letters. We have about half of them.
Okay.
So, questions?
All right. It's kind of critical that, I guess, for the school-age kids, they have to get a dental checkup before they go to school and all those things. So it's essential that there's something available in September. What you're really saying, the bottom line is, if we said we were going to provide $30,000 to this program to keep it running to cover the cost for the fiscal year. So if we do that, from the health department perspective, you're going to do the best you can to stay till September 30th, right?
Yes.
Okay. And if we don't do anything else, we just give you that $30,000 we said, then we're going to be in the transition, and then part of the transition is somehow we look at the rent formula, and I think you've got the dental clinic is a very small space over there, so it shouldn't be significant. Mr. Cully says the number is $100,000 for the year total, 100 and change, so if the space is 10%, we're talking $10,000, $15,000 rent we'd basically be giving you.
Yep.
That's kind of where it is.
And I can tell you that part of the reason for asking for that is because this is very new to us. We have not run a pediatric or children's dental only program in any of our sites. We've never done this. You have the pieces in place. If all the pieces continue to be in place,
right.
And the superintendent was out, I think, last week, and we hope to get his letter this week and so on. So we're working, ever since we had this little meeting that Stephen called me about, we've been working really diligently to get everybody's letter of support. So we're hopeful that we can get it started very early in the school year. Certainly our hope is before the end of September.
Okay. Dr. Rossheim, let me ask you one last question.
Yeah.
Because you're asking us to maintain funding for this year.
Yes, sir.
Now, if we do maintain funding for this year, we're maintaining funding with the understanding that you have dental clinic, or you have the dental clinic at least for 3 months.
Yes.
Okay, and I think the discussion was we contribute $30,000 for the dental clinic.
Yes.
You don't expect to get that money in 2015, do you?
No. Well, I mean, I think it depends on, we have other services that we provide also. So,
but I mean, you don't expect to get the $30,000 for a dental clinic
in
2015.
Because we wouldn't be operating the dental clinic, so we wouldn't ask for any money for dental.
So next year, your budget is automatically going to be reduced by whatever the dental clinic money is. And then you may have some things that make it go up, but it's going to be reduced by dental clinic.
It's going to be reduced by dental. I think that it's hard to look towards 2015, but I think we may have some other things that we may want to ask for, but not for dental.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Sure.
My biggest concern is the fact that you sent a letter to the board back in June, I believe it was, saying that it was going to be closed effective July 1st. What was the date that you gave us that you were going to close the dental clinic?
Well, the date was at the end of July.
Okay. And the board voted on June
something.
26th, whatever it was, to give $30,000 to maintain until, because the people that were here said that $30,000 would keep it open for the rest of the year, in addition to what they were not getting. I certainly support that. But now you're asking for another $39,000 to offset something that you'd already agreed that you were going to offset and close the clinic, and I'm not in favor of doing that. The health department, the state decided that, hey, they couldn't make any money, so they were going to close it. And I'm saying, hey, you're closing it, so the $41,000 that you've lost is your loss. It's nothing anybody can do. I can assure you that, you know, when I go to try to work with people on my personal, nobody says, hey, I want you to go back and, or I can't say, go back and give me money that you owed me for last year if I'd already said I'm going to write it off. I'm not in agreement to do that personally. I just think that I don't mind subsidizing, and I'm willing to go another $9,000 to keep you whole for the 3 months. But I personally, one member is not willing to give you 30 plus give you another 39 to offset some losses that you already said that you were willing to incur and move on and close it.
Can I say
You
one thing?
don't want to give them, give me 1 second. You're saying you don't want to give them the $30,000 we said we would, or?
I'm saying give them that, and $9,000 is the money that they say that we budgeted this year, but they don't get the whole 39. Yeah, I don't get that.
So you're only, okay, you understand what the board is saying? We're already giving you 30,000.
Yes.
So to give you another 30,000 is giving you 60,000,
Right, I'm not-
even though your total losses are 80,000. Our understanding was 30,000 would keep you going.
That's right.
Well, yeah, well, that data, I mean, I didn't present that data.
Right, right.
So I think that's, you know, that was information presented by others, and I think that, you know, that's one of the reasons that I'm here now is to show you the actual data that's out there. So I want to show you where we are at the end of FY13, where we'll be in FY14.
Okay.
I mean,
We understand, Mr. Underwood, you have a
But
question?
you still agree that the 41,000 you've already lost. You've kind of said that's there. So for us to go back and then say we're going to give you a credit of 30,000 on that loss would be going backwards.
Well,
we agreed to go forward.
we're going to be carrying that. I mean, essentially, we're carrying that loss forward.
Right. So you,
Oh.
yeah.
I mean,
Oh, man. I didn't think the government worked like that. At the end of the fiscal year, it's over.
we're going
That's
to be carrying a loss forward.
You carry forward things?
Yes, and yes. I mean, we are this fiscal year. Yeah.
Only in this fiscal year?
Well, not only in this fiscal
That's
year.
what it sounded like.
but
That's what I'm asking.
We're going to be carrying
Is
a
that a
lot.
legislative rule or something that you get to, or you have to carry over things?
Well, I mean, we have a net loss in the health district, and we have to, we have to carry that over, and that's one of the reasons why we're holding positions open is to balance that off.
Are you a state agency?
Yeah.
You're a state agency, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
They're part of the Department of Health.
I worked for the state 33 years and worked in budgeting that probably 25 of those 33 years. And I can assure you, in all of those years, I never carried over to the next year a shortage in the previous year. It never happened. In 25 years that I worked budgets, I don't understand. You sort of got me befuddled as to how that happens.
But if that's the case, I've got some personal carryovers I'd like to get back from the state. Is that going to work? Never mind. Mr. Underwood, you had a question?
Mr. Chairman, I'm in total agreement with Mr. Akers on this, and we can call for a vote, but I don't want to beat a dead horse, but it just seems to me that all is not well. It's just not fitting. So until we can get a better picture, a better number, or something of that, I just do not agree with your assessments. You know, I think you came and we agreed to give you a stake on this hand, and so you said, well, maybe there's another stake in this hand. So really what you're asking for is $60,000 for the continuation. Is that correct?
For 3 months.
For 3 months.
Yeah, yes.
And I'm saying,
in essence, yes.
yeah, and I'm saying.
He told you no? Yeah.
In essence, we're asking for $69,000.
That's kind of our understanding.
Yes.
For 3 months.
For 3 months. And we budgeted $30,000 for the whole year, even though your program runs at a loss.
Right.
Okay. The bottom line is, and I think the rest of the board will agree, we would like to have this program continue. You know, we believe it's in a benefit to the county, and especially to our youth, so we want it to continue. Now, I think there's probably a little more discussion that we as the board and you as the director need to have, because as you can see, there's a little bit of discussion of you've got $30,000 in your budget already for the program that you're going to kill, and we were willing to put $30,000 in there to make sure everything went okay, but you're basically going to kill the program after 3 months, and we're going to give you $60,000 to make up for a loss in the last fiscal year. Well, you offered the last 9, but 69, 60.
I'm not offering that.
No.
It is, yeah.
On his presentation, he said he needed $39,000.
So our issue is helping the Commonwealth go backwards a year and balance their books from a previous year. And we don't have the opportunity to do that as a board, so we have a little problem doing that with the state. Now, again, I think we all agree we want to keep this program. What we need to do is probably work together. You're right. You didn't present the information to us in June. In June, we were under the impression that $30,000 was what you needed to keep going. And the board immediately said that.
Yeah, and I think that was, you know, that information was probably not exactly, you know, accurate.
Now, what happens if we don't do anything today? If we say, well, we can't give you $30,000 more, what happens?
Well, that's going to put us in a difficult position, because then we're going to be sitting on a significant loss, and then we're going to have to, you know, I'll have to go back to my boss to see if we are able to stay open past the end of July.
And when you go, wait, when you go to your boss, you're going to need to explain to your boss that we're immediately going to pull the $30,000 in funding for the dental program if the dental program doesn't exist. So you're going to lose money right away.
Well, I mean, you're talking about down the road.
No, I'm talking about tomorrow. I'm talking about this fiscal year, which started last week.
Uh-huh.
We have, would you say, $300,000 in your budget? 30,000 of that is for the dental program.
Right.
But if you're not going to do a dental program, I can pretty much assure you you're not going to get $30,000. So you're going to lose even more. But we need to, and you could have that discussion
right.
with your management chain. Yeah. I think what we're saying is you need to have a little bit of discussion with Mr. Cully and staff to make sure we get the right number, and we could bring that back again.
Mr. Chairman, can I just ask one more question?
Go right ahead.
The $41,000 loss, was that incurred in Caroline County, or that's incurred throughout your program?
That's
That's
Caroline
only
County.
in the county?
Yeah, these numbers are all Caroline
Okay,
County.
thank you. Okay.
And you lost $200,000 in another locality, right?
Yes.
Okay.
We did much better.
Are they giving you $200,000 to replace what they had a loss on?
No.
So that's the problem I'm having, is the fact you're asking Caroline County to do something you've not asked other counties to do.
Well,
you're asking Caroline County to
well,
go back and...
Actually, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Go ahead.
Let me go back. One of the things that we've done is that we've gone to all the 3 localities. Okay, let me correct that. We've gone to the 3 localities. I spoke at the Stafford Board of Supervisors meeting last week, and told them about the closing of the dental program.
Sure.
So they had the opportunity, and we've presented, and I have either met with or corresponded by email with all of the 3 county administrators to let them know that the program is closing, and basically letting them have the opportunity, if they want to keep the program, if they want to fund it, that's fine. We're happy to continue the program. It's just unfortunately we're unable to continue to fund it. So I have either corresponded by email. I've met with Mr. Romanello. I went before the Stafford board. We met with Mr. Cully, and so we have put that out there to everybody to give them the opportunity to do that. And so far the people that have spoken up in terms of wanting to keep the program are here at Caroline, and so we want to respond to that.
I understand about the program maintaining and going forward. Have no problem with the county helping to fund that, and I think we have agreed to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it means the $39,000. I believe the board would probably look at coming up with another 9 to meet your 9,000. But my question to you was, have you gone to Stafford and said, hey, we had a $100,000 or $50,000 shortfall in last year's budget, and we want you to make up that difference?
Well, I put it out there to Mr. Romanello,
And you didn't get a response.
and I didn't get any answer in terms of we want to make that up. Now the loss was much larger in Stafford.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So
Okay, all right. I think where we are is, again, bottom line is we want to keep the program. We have a little bit of a concern about the total funding, and I would ask that you work as you did with Mr. Cully. We're also going to work with you to move the program, to your side, which may be another effort. If you could please work with us in the next couple of weeks with Mr. Cully, I think we can come back and make a decision at our next board meeting, which will be in a couple of weeks. But we were looking at 30,000 originally. We said if that's the number we need, and today we said if it was 39, we would go with that. I think the issue is helping make up the loss from last year. So that's our concern. We do want the program to keep going. We're going to try to make it work. Okay? Thank you, Dr. Ross.
all right, thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you, sir. We're going to ask staff to get some more information, and then we'll bring it back again. Our offer is still on the table for $30,000. That was the original offer. Mr. Akers, you said 39. I mean, we're just saying is if we had to.
He says his shortfall is going to be $39,000 for the 3-month period. That's what you indicated earlier on the presentation.
Yes.
And I'm saying if that's the case, in order to maintain the program through September, yeah, I'm for one board member willing to go to $39,000 to maintain it. I'm not willing to go $69,000.
And we'll have what we'll have is Mr. Cully will speak to Dr. Rossheim. Mr. Cully will also research to make sure exactly how much is in the budget for the dental program, and he will also check to see what the free rent program number will be for the others, which we thought would be in the $10,000 range. So we'll have all the numbers at our next board meeting. You'll have more discussion, and if we have any questions, I'm sure we'll be in touch with you. Okay? The last thing is we would like the program to keep going. Okay? So we're going to try to do what we can to make it keep going. Thank you very much for your time. All righty. Appointments. I forgot. We've got a couple. They're not me. I forgot where they are. We have appointments for the building code appeals. Port Royal, Madison, and Reedy Church.
My question is, does the individual have to live in the district, or can they have a business in the district?
Have to live in a district.
They have to live.
This was simply for informational purposes tonight, Mr.
They expire in
Thomas.
November, yeah. But it takes us the time to get.
Yes, sir.
Get the
We've been
appointments
doing
first.
some research to try to mirror residents of contractors, design professionals, et cetera, with the different districts in the county. So we've actually been trying to sort through some of that.
Are you going to provide that information to us?
Yes, sir. I'll provide that to you.
And this is November, Mr. Pitts, who's now Reedy Church, was in the Mattapanai district. I lost him in a redistricting, so that's one. He's yours. I'm sure he'll be willing to come back.
And
But this
Evans
is
was in mine. He's in Western Carolina now. Are these individuals that are currently
these are
serving?
current vacancies.
The three that are referenced are the ones that are currently vacant,
Because of put into another district?
or because their terms have actually lapsed. The Board of Building Code Appeals, we've never actually had a meeting of that board.
They're quite active on this.
But by state law, we have to
We have to have one. Yeah.
have that board, should there be an appeal of a decision of the building official.
Yeah.
So the three that you have were either redistricted out or their terms have expired. And
No, he's in his. He was in mine, and I lost him, and I don't recall who's the Mattapanai, but his term is going to expire, so we'll have Mr. Fincham touch base with him. I think he's the only one that's still in a district, because Mr. Stout's in a different district, and I'm not sure Port Royal.
Mr. Seeley's appointment is actually valid through November of this year. So we'll be back in November for Bowling Green.
Okay.
So the gentleman in the Port Royal district is serving presently.
He previously served that position. The term has actually expired. So either he needs to be reappointed, or at your discretion, you can appoint somebody else. And we'll provide the list that we've been working on to the board members.
Thank you, Mr. Fincham. And I dare say we're going to need all our time. Consent agenda. Anything anyone like to pull from the consent agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to pull item C.
C?
Yes. Or D,
Anything?
I'm sorry, D.
D?
D.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to pull items C and E.
C and E. Okay, A and B, minutes, warrants, surplus property, Bowling Green Commission. Is there a motion to approve A, B, F, and G?
So moved, Mr. Chairman. Second.
Motion made by Mr. Underwood, seconded by Mr. Taylor, that we approve consent agenda items A, B, F, and G. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. Item C. That was Mr. Seeley.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to pull the Planning Commission action on the rural resorts. Mr. Fincham, is there any, I wanted to pull it until the second meeting in August, and there's not a second meeting in August. Does it matter if it goes to the first meeting in September? Is there any timeline this is on?
It's entirely up to the board, Mr. Seeley.
Mr. Chairman, I would just like to pull this one until the first meeting in September.
Okay, that's 60 days from now, Mr. Fincham. Is that normally we have to do something within 60 days of Planning Commission action.
This is a text amendment. You don't have your time frames related to a rezoning.
Rezoning one?
This is a text amendment.
All
And
right,
it's not
is that-
uncommon.
Well, I need to know why we put it.
I just have some issues and some concerns about this that I'm doing some research on.
And I guess the concern that I have personally is the developer has spent a lot of time and effort to try and move this forward, whichever way it goes. And I just don't know that we're being fair. Because first of all, it's not just covering one section. This involves the entire county.
Exactly.
But I don't understand why. I mean, we're not voting on it. So I don't.
30 days.
I just think 60 days is a long time. If you want to, I would agree to the second meeting. That's 2 weeks away. No, I'm talking about the end of July. I would agree to put it until the end of July.
Well, that's when it's already slated for, so that hasn't done anything. We're at the first meeting in July now.
Again, I mean, any question that a board member has, I'm sure that they would be willing to provide whatever information you need. to address that issue.
Well, I'm not addressing any developer. I'm addressing a text amendment. I'm not looking, this affects my district as well in some other areas that I need to do some homework on before we move forward on this. And I'm just asking to delay this. This is set for public hearing on the 23rd of July, and I'm looking to go to the first meeting in September.
No, sir. Mr. Seeley?
Yes.
It would actually be the first reading. You have to go to first reading before you then authorize us to go to public hearing. So the next time this would be on the board's agenda, whatever date that is, would not be the public hearing. It would be the first reading where we actually present the text amendment to the board.
Why don't we do this then? Because the
All right,
earliest,
I'll
you
go
can
to
come
the
back.
first of October.
The earliest, you can come back. The earliest this could possibly appear on a board agenda would be the first meeting in August. First reading is the end of July, and then if the board decided at the end of the first reading to go ahead and advertise for public hearing, it would be the first meeting in August.
You probably could not meet your
don't have
time
enough
frames to advertise. So it would actually be September before you could have a public hearing.
I'll go to the first reading in the first meeting in August then.
Well, we can do the first reading next week. It doesn't, or next meeting. It doesn't make a difference because it's not going to come to us until September.
Okay.
So you'll have
So
plenty of time.
it won't be for public hearing until September, Mr. Fincham?
It will not go to public hearing until the board votes to go to public hearing, and actually refers it to public hearing. Remember, the process is the first reading, where the board has the opportunity to actually review and discuss the proposed amendment. From that first reading, you can continue for more discussion, or you could advertise to go to public hearing, or you could stop the process at that point in time after the first reading.
But the earliest they could possibly get, only due to advertising issues between the last meeting in July and the first meeting in August. The earliest, since there's no second meeting in August, the earliest it could possibly come to the board for action is the first meeting in September.
Okay.
Correct.
So we're not going to do anything on that particular agenda item. We're going to move to agenda item D. Mr. Black.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, and I think we had, I don't know, I guess I get some questions. I guess Mr. Cully, you would, or Fran, or, I think we talked about this last year with the revenue anticipation note. What is how much do we pay in per year in interest?
It was 150.
Under the proposal that you're looking at, we're actually going to, in the past, we've gone for a full year. The treasurer this year decided that she only needs it for 6 months, so that's going to cut the interest in half. Under the proposal you're looking at, it would be about $14,000 for 6 months.
So, okay. I guess the next question I have, and I don't know if there's someone else could answer that. If you are a taxpayer in Caroline County, can I do a situation where I pay monthly? Or do we have something set up where I can do some sort of, so for example, I'm talking about like for personal property. Can I, like for example, my bill is $300. Can I pay, every 6 months can I pay a certain amount? Or every month?
That would be a good question for the treasurer, but in that the bill doesn't come out until about May and is due June 5th, you could prepay based on maybe an estimate, but you really wouldn't know what you owed until that bill comes out, and then the first half of it's due June 5th. Right. You would be able to prepay on up for your December 5th bill because you would know what the amount's going to be based on what you got for June, but it's kind of hard to go 12 months. You'd have to start paying in January. We really wouldn't know what we set the rate to be or what your car's valued, but you could always set some money aside knowing you need the bill.
And it's really Mr. Black's point is to assist with the cash flow issue, because that's why we do a RAND.
Right.
We only collect taxes twice a year.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
There's a gap. So by proposing monthly or, I guess, quarterly tax payments, that would help the cash flow.
And reduce
I
interest.
don't know if we can do that. I think Mr.
No, I don't think
Emerson
there's a
said
legal
we
way to
can't.
do that. I don't believe there's a legal way to have tax bills that are any more than twice a year.
even on real estate?
Yeah, yes, sir, even on real estate. I
Okay.
mean, a lot of localities used to only send one a year.
It's a good thought.
Okay, thank you.
All right, and just to let you know, the RAND used to be $8 million because we have more in the unencumbered balances. It's down. All right, agenda item E. Who is that?
Me, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Sealy. E.
I guess my question is, we're moving water and sewer lines at 639, and since we didn't have the drawing, my question was, and I don't know if Mr. Schiebel can tell me, do we know what this move entails, and are we adding elbows and turns to the pipe that are going to cause us any grief later?
Not necessarily. I mean, no more than what you would normally have. Basically, we're required by law. All utilities are required by law to move anything in the current right-of-way when VDOT expands.
Right.
Luckily, being a municipality, VDOT picks up 100% of those costs. But if I was operating the phone utility system or fiber cables or gas lines, that would be moved at my expense at VDOT's timetable. So they're out covering 100% of that cost. There are additional elbows that will go in because basically our current water and sewer lines would be underneath the pavement. They're trying to move it to the back 5 feet.
Right.
So in order to move the 16-inch main, the water main that runs down there, they're going to put a 45 to move it to the back, 45 it's straight down, and 245s to bring it back to its current transition.
That's a lot of turns.
Depends on how you look at it. Every time you go through a corner, anytime there's a curve in the road, there's a bend. So it ends 4 more elbows into that line. Friction loss on that 16-inch main is minimal compared to a 6, 8, or 10-inch line. So, but it does add additional friction loss. It's probably not going to affect our fire flow by more than a couple gallons a minute on that size line.
How about the sewer line?
Sewer line, there will be 1 elbow where they're going to pick it up at, where it comes over, and then 1 at the other end. So there's 2 elbows on that.
Are those 45s?
That's a gravity line, so it's not really going to affect that because it doesn't have the same velocities that you have to worry about under force main.
So they're all gravity for
That's
wastewater?
correct. That's correct.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Sealy. Motion to approve CD&E would be in order.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Sealy, seconded by Mr. Black. Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. The board has a scheduled closed meeting right now, and then at 7:30 we're scheduled to start public comments and then our public hearings. So we're probably going to be running at least half an hour late. So we won't start public comments until 8 o'clock, and public hearings from there. We need a motion for closed meeting. A move that the board convene in a closed meeting pursuant to the prospective business exemption of Section 2.23711A5 of the Code of Virginia to discuss potential business considering the northwest area of the county as a location for business and about which no previous public announcement has been made. Motion to that effect would be in order, please.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second?
Motion made by Mr. Underwood, seconded by Mr. Akers. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. We should be back by 8 o'clock. Take 5 on